a brand new franchise. So good on you, Seattle. All right. Thanks for watching Teal Tinted Glasses, folks. Good night. Oh, are we starting? Oh, shoot.
Wow. Damn, this is awkward. Welcome to Teal Tinted Glasses, episode number 36. Thanks for joining us tonight. I know we kind of didn't give the usual super notice that we normally give, so we apologize for that. But thanks for looking on Twitter and tuning in regardless. Tonight, we got a ton of stuff to talk about. A lot of your questions, which is always fun to do when we're doing a show. And, you know, there's some other stuff happening around the league that I'm sure we can talk about. I mean, now that the trade deadline's over, it gets harder to do an NHL-centric podcast. I'm not going to lie. I went kind of like, nothing happened this week. What are we going to talk about? But you guys came through, and there is some stuff that we can talk about. And really, we can kind of talk about anything and make an hour or two out of it. So here we are. I'm joined today. We have the full crew again, which has been awesome as of late. Kevin, you're still here. Normally
I know,
by this
2
point,
weeks in a row.
I know. Like normally by this week, we've lost you again for months. How's it feel to be here for as many shows as you've been here on lately?
Oh, I guess the obviously the trade paperwork didn't actually go through because Hockey Jerk is back. But
yeah, they spiked the trade. I don't know what happened.
But on the bright side, I did get this burger as a penance for Hockey Jerk being back. So yum.
Wow. Hockey Jerk, we submitted the paperwork a minute too late, and you're here. So how does it feel to be back on Teal Tinted Glasses and not I live in Antarctica and I'm a penguin?
Well, I don't know how many people saw on Twitter, but I think it was a couple days after the trade deadline, a Penguins podcast actually followed me on Twitter, and there was a very split second where I was worried that the trade actually had gone through. So that's why I was a little late. I among other things in my time machine, I was making sure the trade didn't go through because I didn't want to leave my two friends here.
Fair enough. And honestly, after I put the trade through, I felt really crappy about it.
Although I will say this though, if I don't re-sign next year, then Kevin's burger becomes a double burger.
All right.
Wow.
But I am going to file for tampering.
All right, guys. So, like I said, I mean, it wasn't like a huge, obviously, you know, the week after the trade deadline's kind of a quiet week. But there is some stuff to talk about. Seattle sold a bunch of tickets, which is pretty good for them, right?
As I speak with my mouth full. Yeah, it's awesome. I should probably be more prepared and more professional here. But I'm hungry. It's dinner time, folks. Thanks for joining us. My friend, one of my best friends, we have been waiting for Seattle to get a hockey team since like 1995. Like, I'm not sure what it is. I've always loved the city of Seattle. My friend moved to the city of Seattle 10 years ago. He is one of the registered members to become a season ticket holder for them. And he said that he had to wait 17 minutes just to get through on the queue to register. And he was not one of the first 10,000. And that was in 17 minutes. Yeah, I think he was like 12,000 something. So good on you, Seattle. Way to show your support.
And I think a lot of that stems from, you know, a combination of the Supersonics leaving. And then, I mean, I'm not the hugest football guy, but it's to my understanding that the Seahawks aren't the, you know, juggernaut team they once were. And so I think there's a desire to see something else in that market. And, you know, kind of going on what Kevin said about how he's been waiting for a long time. I'm surprised that, you know, Seattle didn't get a team before some other non-traditional markets. I mean, you know, the Thunderbirds are doing well in Seattle, and, you know, teams like, you know, Vancouver and then Portland in the WHL, they're not that far away in terms of distance either. So it's definitely an area that's had its fair share of exposure to hockey, and it seems like the right time to capitalize on it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I guess the plan is they're going to renovate Kirina now. Is this the plan? As I understand it. Yeah. So I know unrenovated Kirina just had awful sightlines for hockey. But so I mean, I'm not completely surprised they didn't get a team sooner because it wasn't exactly like an ideal arena for it. The other thing too is that like, but I agree though. I mean, there's lots of opportunity there, and I know when the word came out that they sold their tickets faster than Winnipeg, obviously there was like a lot of like internet immediate backlash, which I found hilarious. It's like, well, how many of those people are Canadians?
Oh, they're all Russian.
Right. Oh, they're all Russian, right? Yeah. You know, how many people are just doing it to get NBA tickets? But it sounds like from like what I was talking to someone from Seattle, and it sounds like most of their teams have waiting lists for season tickets. So it seems like it's a good market. And also Winnipeg, we understand that your Wi-Fi is not good. So that probably played a factor. I know I've probably used that joke on 16,000 shows, but you know what? I don't even care. It's still great. Still great.
You might want to be careful with how much you talk about Winnipeg, because if I remember correctly, aren't you a fan of them?
I do have a soft spot for the Jets. I'm not gonna lie, but but still, it doesn't make me think. The thing that made me laugh though the most was I remember when Vegas did their ticket drive, and I remember being so unimpressed by it. Like, yeah, they sold tickets, but I mean, it took them 2 days to sell 5,000, and I'm not obviously look at. Vegas so far has been a great market, but I remember being just so underwhelmed by their ticket drive when you look at like other teams where, you know, if Quebec City had done a season ticket drive, for example, was the other team that had applied for expansion, you know, they would have had those tickets sold in again under an hour.
Yeah.
So
all of those people would have willingly driven 30 minutes into the forest to go to those games.
Absolutely. So I mean, it's interesting to me that that you know, with the Vegas taking as long as they did, that I mean, it was the worst kept secret, right? And now there's rumors already that this could be a team like this. They could be officially awarded a franchise by the June GM meetings.
That's crazy, but they still wouldn't start until 2020-ish, depending on the lockout / strike, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking if you get your expansion, and again, I'm just spitballing here because I'm not that inside the NHL offices, but to me,
that's the NHL office behind you.
Isn't it? Surprisingly, I know I don't live in New York. I live in Canada. NHL offices are actually in New York. You know, typical Gary Bettman BS. What can I say? He hates Canada. No, but that's an interesting thing though, because the point that I did want to make was that let's say they get awarded in June. So obviously you're looking at probably a 2019 expansion draft. But then what? You're going to start a season. You're going to have a franchise starting the year that the league is likely going to have a lockout.
Exactly.
Like that's such a weird predicament the NHL's in, because this is going to be huge. Like this Seattle thing, like is going to be pretty big, I think, with how they sold their tickets. And I think it's just it's a market that's kind of untapped. And, you know, based on the ticket sales, I mean, that's going to be a lot of excitement. I just can't imagine how much a lockout could really damage that right off the get-go. Yeah. But even if they push it back a year and there's a lockout, does that help Seattle? Like, man, the NHL's in a rock and a hard place here to try and avoid another labor disruption. And I don't see how they can.
For the right price at NHL, I will let you use my time machine to go back and bring Seattle in 5 years ago. But no, joking aside, I think it is very curious, like you said, with the lockout literally looming upon us, that they would choose to do this now, unless there's some kind of backdoor inner working that we don't know about, which is very possible. But the thing that I'm kind of thinking about, and this may just be me, but I almost wonder if because if I recall correctly, the expansion fee for Seattle was more than the Vegas fee, correct?
It's rumored to be $650 million.
See, now I could totally see it be another addition to the laundry list of issues where, you know, the PA, you know, wants to somehow get a cut on that, or more of a cut, or do something.
They don't get any cut. It's not HRR, so they don't get the players don't get nothing.
That's exactly why I think that an NHL strike is more likely than an NHL lockout, because what the hell are the owners going to lock the team out for? If Seattle goes through, and with the Vegas money, that'd be a combined $1.15 billion in revenue in what? And that's not including ticket sales or any of that. So that is such a huge sum of money. Why would they lock out? Though,
because they got to roll back the salary cap again.
Well, the owners had 2 chances to do that, and they failed both times. So
no, they successfully did. Both lockouts we saw. That's why.
I mean, they failed at their goal of doing it because they're right back where they started.
Okay, but why do you think the Islanders keep signing all these long-term deals? They're trying to load up more compliance buyouts, obviously. Obviously, but
yeah,
no, and to Kevin's point, that's 1.15 or how much ever $billion of money that they didn't have to work for,
and they didn't have to share, other than with each other.
Share, and that's what kind of irked me about the last lockout is the PA was very vocal in saying that they would play under the old agreement if as long as a new agreement was being worked on, and the NHL was like, too bad. So I think Kevin's point is 1,000% valid, where a strike is very realistic.
Especially because with escrow,
with escrow, with a lot of the other things. And I mean, these are all kind of little things, but you add them all together and it's a big deal. But, players are not happy about, coach's challenge. Players are not happy about concussion protocol. And
here's Mike Babcock, by the way.
Right. And, they're not happy about concussion protocol and safety in general. I mean, how many years has player safety been putting out those cute little videos and people still haven't learned at Radko Gudas? But like the PA has a lot of tiny things to be upset about that you mix them all together. And it's, like I said, it's a laundry list of grievances that they could, feasibly have and take issue with in 2 years.
The Olympics.
Yeah, there you go.
I think the only thing, from the sounds of it, the only thing the owners are really going to push for, they always push for a reduction. Like they're going to try and roll the salary cap back again, and save themselves from themselves, give themselves some compliance buyouts, because that seems to be like the norm now. But I think another thing that the only thing that the owners really want is, I think they want to roll back the term length of contracts even more. I think they want to roll them back to 5 now that's what's been reported. Whether that's, a couple of owners speaking out loud where they shouldn't or not, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, obviously the way to keep the money under control is obviously that's why they put the term limits on, right? Because they want to stop these stupid contracts that are just backloaded. So if you get them down to 5, that really it's really hard to backload a 5-year deal.
Right. That's what I wanted to see out of the last lockout. That was my biggest sticking point, was they need to have a term limit, not a salary limit, if anything.
Yeah. But can
I just ask something real quick on Seattle?
Yeah.
Just for everyone out there watching, listening, and please subscribe.
Absolutely.
We did mention Seattle. Of course, the hot topic then becomes, what's the team going to be called? And I actually would like a legitimate conversation, not just the Seattle Starbucks, har, har, har. And what do you really think the team's going to be called? Huh?
Not the Seattle Hipsters?
No, see, like that. Because I want the Wolves, although I've heard rumblings from my friend who lives up in Seattle that Grizzlies might be an option, but I do know they would have to buy out a trademark for that. But what do you guys think?
Seattle Emeralds, because Seattle is the Emerald City.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
I said Seattle Emeralds. I'm not even trying to make myself look good here. I said Seattle Emeralds like 5 years ago, and I had people who were like, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." And I'm like, "Okay." Okay.
But I don't think they're going to use green on their sweat. They said they wouldn't use green on their sweaters, and that'd be saved for the basketball team, which would. If you're going to use green on your sweater, it's how you can call yourself the Emeralds. I'd like I don't know, maybe the Krakens. I like the Krakens. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, that's good. I don't know, like I've heard the totems. I like that. Although depending on what you lose for your logo in this day and age, we don't want to offend anybody. There's so many. I mean, there's some really cool things. I like now you say Grizzlies. I like the Grizzlies. But
yeah, I like the Grizzlies. When my friend told me that, I was like, ooh, I don't mind that. And Sleepy Mofo, I said, no, Seattle Starbucks. Do not listen.
Mike Neves says bring back the Seattle Metropolitans.
I hate that. No offense, Mike.
Only if they raise the cup banner like the first night. For the 19 whatever team,
29 or whatever it was.
Yeah. For the team from the 1800s, raise that banner for opening night, and I'm okay with that.
You know what else needs to be raised, guys? Brock Besser needs to be raised back from the dead.
Wait, I don't want to go there yet. I had one more.
Don't want to go there yet?
No.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
Sorry, that's okay. The rumor is that Vegas, they're going to get the same basically deal that Vegas is. And the question I really, really wanted to ask you guys is, how do you feel about that? And do you think, like, we've obviously seen the success Vegas has had, but do you think that that teams are obviously would approach the expansion draft process differently, knowing what they've been like? Do you think that, is it really going to be such a boon for Seattle, or is Seattle going to be like, no, you know what, take Matt Dumba because we're not giving you 6 guys instead?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I would sorry, I can't even talk. I would find it very hard to believe for the league to make the expansion progress more restrictive. I mean, you can't say, okay, here's the shiny toy for you and you don't get it. It has to be
for less money, you get dick.
Yeah, exactly. You can't do that. But I do agree with you, though. I think a lot of teams would be more willing to, take the L, so to speak, on some guys and just let guys go. Now, obviously, the teams like Detroit, teams like the Islanders, who are notorious for getting themselves into trouble with the salary cap, I still see them getting into the wheeling and dealing, so to speak. Sure. But honestly, like, especially for Columbus, like, let's just say hypothetically it was Seattle coming around. If I'm Columbus, I'm like, yeah, I want my draft pick, so you can have Josh Anderson.
Yeah, like, I still think, like, there's going to be room for teams to, like, I think you look at what Florida gave up so that Vegas would take Jason Garrison. I think you're going to still see stuff like that. But I think when you look at a team like, I just use Minnesota as an example, where it's like, there's a big bullseye on Matt Dumba's back. I don't know if I give up the packages that I gave up again to protect him. Mm-hmm. Kevin, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that the problem with the last expansion draft was the fact that the GMs were trying to use the old model in the new structure. Mm-hmm. So, like, the expansion draft was designed to hinder teams from making these side deals that plagued the 1999-2000 expansion era, and yet GMs still tried to do it anyway. And Vegas totally reaped the rewards from it. And I think now that GMs will be smarter enough to go like, oh crap, we thought we could pull a fast one on the NHL, and that was really stupid. Again, the Vegas thing is a total anomaly where Drew and Hockey Jerk, I think everyone pretty much has said, Vegas got the 8th best player and James Neal from every team. So and Fleury, yeah. But outside of Neal and Fleury, they got the 8th best player on every team. But it's just they're such a cohesive unit. That's why they're winning. But I do think as far as the trades go, I think Winnipeg would be a team that would be like, we don't want to lose guys.
Yeah, no doubt.
But you're going to, like, a team like Florida, who really didn't have any business making a side deal.
Well, they wanted to get rid of Jason Garrison's contract.
No, that was Tampa.
Oh, that was Tampa. You're right. I'm sorry.
Florida wanted to get rid of Riley Smith's contract, and that worked out great.
Yeah. I've always been a fan of Riley Smith, so I thought that was stupid from the start.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get rid of Smith and Marchessault, and you can take Connor Brickley. Sure, we'll take Connor Brickley. Okay, sure.
Truth. Yeah, I don't know. Like, to me, I think it's going to be interesting because I don't think it's. I know like a lot of people are like, oh, like everyone's going to be lining up for the job in Seattle, but I don't. I still think Vegas is going to be an anomaly. I think again, like Seattle has the potential with the players are going to get to be good. That's the whole idea behind this. They don't want teams to start with 4 lines of fourth liners and have to build up. The NHL's learned their lessons from dreadful teams in Atlanta and dreadful teams in Columbus that were very even Nashville at one point was on the
even San Jose.
Right. I mean, like, I don't remember San Jose ever really being for sale, but I mean, like,
well, not for sale, but I just mean in terms of dreadful.
Oh, sure, dreadful, but I mean, the Sharks were like
the Sharks didn't even have an expansion draft.
Business money, yeah. Well, and then that's the other thing too. But the thing is, though, is I mean, like, you saw teams like Nashville, you saw Atlanta move, you saw teams like Nashville almost move. They don't want these teams to be. Well, Pittsburgh's not a recent expansion team, but obviously teams that do pork run that risk. But I mean, my point is that when you have expansion teams like flailing because of just terrible product that just doesn't help them do anything, it doesn't help anything, right? Like you want to have the team be somewhat competitive off the hop.
Right. I mean,
I almost wonder if it would be beneficial in that same capacity to have expansion teams host a special event within the first 3 to 5 years of their existence, say an all-star game or a draft or what have you.
That's generally, I think, what they've done. It's been so long since we've had a new team in the NHL. But I mean,
I feel like Atlanta had an all-star game, did they not?
San Jose had the all-star game in their seventh.
As soon as they had a new arena, yeah.
Columbus, I believe, did. So it happens. In fact, isn't Vegas lined up to get an all-star game? Or they had the all-star game before the team started playing. So
you know who was the Arizona Coyotes were supposed to get the all-star game in 2005, but the season got canceled.
But the Arizona Coyotes, no, that was Columbus, wasn't it?
No, the Coyotes were supposed to get it in 2005, and season got canceled, and they never got it. And the league was like, "Oh yeah, we'll get you back." And
well, they're lucky that they even got that offer because they should have moved in 2001. But
that's fair.
It's fair. Okay, now that we've touched on that, rest in peace, Brock Besser.
You know who's not moving? Brock and I say it jokingly, but I feel terrible because you guys know that Brock Besser's been my guy for like 2 years now.
I know. All I said was ouch, and I got in trouble on Twitter, and then I feel bad because now I'm going to get in trouble again for I'm not making fun. Look at terrible injury, awful, just fluke occurrence. I don't think there's really no one at fault there, I guess, other than maybe Jake Virtanen for not closing the door quickly enough. I don't think that Cal Clutterbuck did anything wrong.
No.
From what I saw, it looked like Besser initiated the contact, and if you're gonna hit a guy like Cal Clutterbuck, then you gotta. Sometimes it's not going to go your way.
And for those of you who did not see the play or have not looked up the highlight yet, Brock Besser went to basically hip check Cal Clutterbuck over near the bench boards, right where Jake Virtanen was exiting the ice. So the door was open, and Besser, I don't even know how to describe it from then on, but his back got racked on the open space where the door should be. And that looked like a pelvic injury. That was horrible. He got stretchered out of the arena and to the hospital. It's horrible.
I was surprised. The team said he was. I mean, obviously Vancouver's not a playoff team, but the team said he would only be out in air quotes for 4 to 6 weeks, which seems very generous.
Wow. Wow.
That's not the rest of the season at this point. I feel like that's the rest of the season.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's very, we're not going to the playoffs.
No, that's true.
He's lucky he didn't fracture a vertebrae.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I got in trouble with Twitter last night was the fact that I commented that ironically the Besser injury came against the Islanders with Matt Barzal. But yeah, if you want to yell at me about that, I'm at Kevin Lacey 22. Cheap plug. So yeah, I mean the Calder race is it Barzal and nobody else at this point? Because the history has shown that the people who vote for these awards don't give them to players who miss any kind of time over the season.
Yeah, I mean, with unless if Charlie McAvoy is going to be back at some point, I think it's a one horse race, and I really like McAvoy, but I'm not sure that he was beating Barzal at this point. I don't think anyone was beating Barzal to begin with, but
yeah, Barzal got his 50th assist, joining an elite club last night.
I just think it's like, because at the start of the season, none of us had Barzal on the radar for the Calder. I believe Kevin and I both said Besser, and I know Ian said Clayton Keller.
Yeah.
And now look, I mean, Besser and McAvoy have both been injured twice, and Keller has fallen off, and here comes, I don't want to say out of nowhere, because we all know how I feel about Matt Barzal, but I mean, wasn't even in the conversation, and now he, like you said, Kevin, he's the only one in the conversation.
Yeah. We're dumb. Yeah, Rob asking, is Clutterbuck going to face any death supplementals plan? It was a hockey play, man. There's nothing there. There's nothing malicious. Yeah. There's nothing dirty about it.
And that's what bothered me too about every news outlet I saw talking about it. They all say that Besser got injured on a Clutterbuck hit, but if you watch, Besser was trying to line up Clutterbuck, and Clutterbuck just moved.
Yeah, and Clutterbuck's an ox too.
Right. There's some people that look. You're sometimes when a little dude. I'm not saying Besser's little, but he's smaller than Clutterbuck. I mean, if I run, you guys know that Landy's 1,000,000 feet tall. If Ian runs at Eric Landy and tries to lay a hit, Ian's going to go the other direction when it's all said and done. Landy's going to sit there going, "What the hell, Ian? What in the hell?" That is what happened last night.
Yeah, it really. And Puck Guy tipped me off on this. I guess TSN TED 40 last night. Their radio people were talking about how this is bench doors are a problem in the NHL. Seriously, talking about this, saying this is the fault of arena structure, and how dare there be doors on the benches, and we need to remove all doors, and that's why Besser got hurt. Sure, the placement
is a much better idea.
Is how he got hurt. But I mean, come on.
So Kevin, let's break this down into real terms. You and I both play hockey. What's going through your mind as you're hauling ass to change and the door is closed?
And the door is closed. I wish I had hops, but I don't, so I need the door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you want guys to start flying over the bench or getting called for too many men a lot more, then you got to have doors. It's as simple as that.
Do you really want guys tired, not really go flailing their skates in the air at face level?
I'm always telling teammates and stuff, why waste extra energy hopping up over the boards if no one's using the door? Just use the door.
Yeah, man, I always use the door coming off. I'll hop over the boards coming on, door coming off, because by the time I'm coming off, I don't have the energy to climb over the boards. Are you kidding me? I'd be there a day and a half.
I tried to climb over the boards a grand total of 1 time, and I almost tore my quad doing it. So yeah.
Sleepy Mofo says, "Don't hop. We know what happened with Havlat." I guess not to derail the conversation too much, but I actually did Havlat myself over the boards once. Thankfully, didn't get hurt, but it's a scary feeling.
Should we just get rid of boards in general? I think. I feel like maybe boards in general is just a bad idea.
I feel like it should be like the NBA where everybody just stands and waits.
We'll just replace the boards with nets. What could possibly go wrong?
Or let all 18 skaters on the ice at the same time.
That's fair.
And just let them all go at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. I know Jake Vertanen has taken a ton of crap, but I mean... Man, it just happened. That happened so fast. It's an unfortunate, fluky hockey play, and I feel bad. Don't get me wrong, man. I feel terrible for Brock Besser. I hope he's fine. I hope he gets better. The kid's a ton of fun to watch.
Yeah.
And he's a big part of what's gonna eventually pull that Vancouver team out of, getting rid of Jim Benning might help too. But it's a start. It's a start, boys. I don't know. All right, moving on. I just wanted to show something that was kind of funny. Obviously, now that teams are out of it, they start doing some really interesting things. Today on Twitter, I don't know if you guys noticed, but apparently Elliot Friedman said that the Oilers do not want to shut down an injured Oscar Klefbom so they can showcase him. I'd also like to point out on the other side, it seems like the two just dreadful teams that should be getting better at this point and aren't. The Buffalo Sabres used Jordan Nolan, noted second line NHL talent. It's fun. Tank season's officially in effect, isn't it?
I'm loving it. I can't wait until we see Jonathan Taves playing with, like, I don't even know, some random fourth line guy, and then, you know, whatever guy from the crowd they can fit under the salary cap. It's going to be great.
Oh dear, that comes this time of the year. The question is, can the Sharks beat these teams?
Oh man, I hope so.
I hope so too.
Because I don't know. I mean, with noted second line talent, Jordan Nolan, the Leafs fell to the Sabres last night, so we're in trouble.
I was unaware Jordan Nolan was still on an NHL roster, and I am not being facetious. I legitimately thought that he was on Rochester.
No.
So that's my problem with this time of the year is roster limits don't matter. The Coyotes do this every year, and I sadly say that because they never make the playoffs. But the Coyotes always manage to have like a 40-man roster in September, so to speak. And it's like that rule doesn't exist in this sport, only in baseball. How did they get away with these so-called roster limits that don't exist? Like, I don't know.
All right, so I got a couple of other some quick hits here, and then we'll get on to some Sharks talk. We have Taylor Hall's on a tear. How Taylor Hall, like, he's got to be in serious consideration for the Hart at this point, no?
Yes,
26,
absolutely.
26 game point streak now.
I was watching the Devils game from like a week ago or so, and the crowd was straight up chanting MVP like the last 5 minutes of the game nonstop, which on a side note was awesome to see New Jersey fans finally filling up the Prudential Center again, or whatever it's called. I'm glad that they're out supporting their team, supporting Taylor Hall. Yeah. He's on a tear right now, but it's not official because he missed 3 games or whatever, and that's a load of crap. 26 game point streak, amazing.
I know someone was like, I read a comment on Twitter about like how no one's really talked about the Hart because it's going to go to a Russian this year, and I was like, Taylor Hall's Russian? No, I mean obviously Kucherov's had a hell of a season.
Malkin is also really jumping.
Malkin's doing really well too. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously it's you know, that's the more exciting part of the year. It's watching who's tanking and you know, obviously the trophy races heat up. 3 hat tricks tonight. Bukestad, Line, and Marchand all with hat tricks. Marchand's had a hell of a season too for
he had 5 points tonight.
Yeah, just for being a rat-faced mother blank, he's had a good season. Any thoughts on the outdoor game, quick?
My favorite part of it was when it was over.
I was happy that Washington won one. And I thought it was really interesting. I heard that that's the first time the Capitals have ever worn navy blue in their history. That seemed weird to me.
All I'll say, sorry, go ahead.
Back when they had the bronze in their jerseys and stuff, they had a blue jersey.
Yeah,
but
like
I guess
Eagle jersey.
Yeah, but I guess it doesn't consider navy blue, so I don't know.
Air Force blue, was it? I don't know.
All I'm going to say about outdoor games is if the Sharks ever get another one with Eric Fair on the team, they're winning without any question.
There you have it. I thought it was okay. I watched it. I mean, I didn't really. I more watched it for just something better, lack of something to do.
Yeah.
I thought it was okay though. I thought all things considered, as far as outdoor games go, I thought the game was pretty smooth as far as the thing goes. Obviously, the delay for the lights was amusing. And maybe white on white is not a great idea.
Oh, man. You know, I just saw in my time hop earlier in the week, I forgot the Kamloops Blazers did that a couple of years ago, and I thought it was atrocious. And like there was your example right there. Who designed this crap for the Maple Leafs? Like,
I thought, like, on their own, like, I thought they kind of, like, I thought they looked sharp, but when you actually put them on
on the ice, right,
is dumb. Well, I mean, I thought that the sweaters themselves, I thought they were sharp. Like, I think they got a lot of hate that they probably didn't deserve, but put them on the ice, they weren't. It wasn't a good idea. Not a good idea. All right, so moving on to some Sharks topics. Just some early thoughts on Evander Kane so far, now that we've seen a few games of him. Kevin, I'll start with you because I know you're still mad at me.
Since I was the most outspoken on last week's show. Evander Kane's really, he's been great so far. He really has. My gripe wasn't really with the talent exchange. The risk, it was a risky play. Not a move I would have made. My problem with Kane was what happens with the rest of the team. Is this team good enough to be a playoff team? So far, since Kane joined the team, or rather joined the top line is it. Again, my question has not been answered. Where's the rest of the team? Because they've all gone cold outside of Kane, Donskoy, and Pavelski.
Mr. Jerk.
So when the Sharks traded for Evander Kane, I was happy. And 3 games later, I'm happier. I think he's been an excellent, fantastic addition to the team. I think he is what the Sharks were missing in terms of having the guy who appears to be able to do everything himself. I mean, he the most recent game, Sharks game, I don't recall who it was against, but he had a goal, and assist, and 5 hits. I mean, that's literally the definition of difference maker. You know what I mean? And I just like what he's brought so far, and I think him finally being in a winning environment will make that production go up even further. I mean, think about Winnipeg and Buffalo when he was there. Not the sexiest of markets to be in. However, I do echo the same concerns as Kevin in that it seems like that's the only line that's doing anything. Now, lest we forget that the second line with Couture and Hurdle and whoever else they throw up there, Bodker, LeBanc, Sorensen, they're still doing, they're still playing really well. That's not to say that they aren't. And I think that's just a product of, what's working in the moment being, looked at with the microscopes just because everything else doesn't appear to be working very well. I mean, for all we know, the next set of games the Sharks have that come up, it could be the Logan Couture line that scores in every game and the top line goes pointless. I think if these lines, if they can all get on track at the same time, I think the Sharks are going to be kind of a sneaky little team to keep an eye on for the playoffs. And, like I said, I think it's just a matter of getting on track at the same time. And at the same time, too, you never know what's to come, with Jumbo Joe. Like, if he comes back, do you go back to the status quo of the Joe line and put another wing in there? Or do you try Joe away from Pavelski and the Couture line,
Right. No, yeah, I agree. Look, I feel like with the way it's been on the line, like, yeah, there's obviously other issues, but I think as far as just Kane goes and how he's fit in, I mean, for all the things that everyone was complaining that the Sharks didn't have, to me, he's checked all the boxes so far. I mean, obviously, like, expecting him to single-handedly win us every game is going to be dumb. Like, obviously the power play has to click, and the power play has to get fixed at this point. Like, it's, I don't want to steal other people's drums, but this is obviously a problem, and we'll talk about that more in a bit. But I think the early returns are great. I mean, all things considered. Moving on, one of my favorite Sharks of all time, Mr. Jonathan Cheechoo, is retiring.
He's supposed to be coming back to fix the power play.
No, he's retiring. Sorry.
The Sharks would have won the Stanley Cup if they had just kept Cheechoo, obviously.
I know. Look at Cheechoo. I mean, obviously wasn't ever a great skater. Double hernia surgery kind of just liquidated what little skating he had, to the point where he couldn't keep up at the NHL game. But man, the dude won a Rocket Richard. You can't take that. You can't ever take it away from him. He won it. And he was always, during that run, I mean, he was a ton of fun to watch. And I think there's a lot of like, where he, ended up being in the KHL or wherever after, and, everyone kind of took a dump on him afterwards. And I was, because everyone's like, oh, we got to bring Chichu back. We got to bring Chichu back. And obviously that ship had so sailed. See Setaguchi, Devin, see Heatley, Danny, and the list goes on and on. But I mean, other than being annoyed by things like that, I mean, he was, at the height of his power, he was fun to watch.
And you know what? You mentioned too his Rocket Richard season, but the year before that one and the two after it, he still put up some good numbers, I believe, and I could be wrong. I believe he scored at least 20 goals in all 4 of those seasons that I just mentioned. So it's not like he flashed and then was gone. Like he put up some consistent numbers over that time, and it kind of sucks that he did gradually fizzle out, but he was still, a big part of the franchise of that mid to late 2000s. And, the fact that he still holds a couple Sharks records, despite how many years it's been since then, should, give you an indication of his worth. And I am also a little biased because when I was a kid, I did have a Chichu train whistle.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Jonathan Chichu, definitely one of the most favorite players in Sharks history. But the 56 goal season aside, I'm going to talk about the 56 goal season actually, because that ride, every time he scored, we always remember those goal celebrations that he had. But every time he scored a goal at home, oh my God, that place, the SAP Center, HP Pavilion, whatever it was called back then, just lit up enormously, like with Chichu.
Right.
So this, the crowd fed off him, he fed off the crowd, and even after the 56 goals, he had 37 goals the next year. So it's not like he had 1 year and dropped off, as Hockey Jerk said. The only season that Chichu really faltered was his last year with the Sharks. And the surgery. After surgery, yeah. And then really his so-called downfall was his year in Ottawa. At his time with the Sharks, he was a tremendously valuable player. So, yeah.
And I think
I'm glad that,
right?
Is he retiring as a Shark? I missed the announcement.
Okay, this is hockey. You don't retire as a team person. You don't go into the Hall of Fame as a team person. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe he's retiring as a Shark. I don't know.
Like the one-day contract. I mean, the Sharks haven't had a number. Wow.
Sorry. That's why the audio is sometimes better than.
I was gonna say that's why the Sharks haven't had a number 14 since.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I mean, kudos to the guy. Coming from a place like Moose Factory, where they apparently don't make moose. I've been always very unhappy to learn that there's like not an actual moose factory. I always thought all the moose came from there. Apparently not.
Another thing on Chichu real quick though, I always will eat crow and give mad respect when it's due. I remember the first preseason game I ever saw Jonathan Chichu. I think it was against Vancouver. And that would have been in 2000, I think. Mm-hmm. He was so garbage. He was so bad. I was like, wow, this is one of the worst second-round picks the Sharks have ever had. Like, what the hell were they thinking? This guy's falling all over the place. And his skating didn't get tremendously better. Mm-hmm. But, boy, he was an NHL hockey player. And, I would call it a great career, a successful career for him.
Hey, you have to be a really good hockey player to be a really bad NHLer, and Chichu was than that. So
yeah,
in speaking with games we've been at, and then we can go to the next topic.
Sure.
That game against Montreal where he had that spinorama goal, I was there. It was so sick to see live.
Yeah.
I'll just say that.
And I apologize for anyone who was watching that was taken aback by my gestures.
You need to have a long-winded apology holding a box of all of your belongings in it.
Another day.
From your NHL office.
Yes. in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. So the Sharks made a couple of signings. Well, the Sharks made a signing. The Barracuda made a signing. We'll start with the Sharks signing. They signed Vincent Praplin to an ELC. He played a season in the OHL with, I believe it was, I want to say it was was it North Bay at the time still, or was it still Brampton? I don't know. With the battalion nonetheless. So he has some familiar with the NHL ice. Swiss apparently is the new German for the Sharks. Remember a while back when the Sharks were just like, they were going to get every German hockey player on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
They are now doing the same thing, but in Switzerland.
Pretty much.
I don't know what it is. Like,
well, they're going to go back to Germany because Germany beat Switzerland in the Olympics.
Well, I thought, with Hasso there, like, then they would totally go back to Germany.
Oh, yeah.
They were going to find that German stud, right? Like, I remember for so long, like, it was just like a lot of the guys they brought in, like Marcel Gotch, and they had
Christian Ehrhoff
and
Marco
Thomas
Sturm,
and Dimitri Patzel,
I
Kai
loved
Osfeld.
I loved Marco Sturm though.
Oh, yeah, I'm not dissing Marco Sturm. I'm just saying, like, it just seemed like they just strip mined the German system looking for that next big star. Go ahead.
Timo Pielmeier, who was the backup goalie for Team Germany, and Patrick Ehelechner. All these Germans.
Well, now it's Swiss. The Sharks have moved to Switzerland. Maybe the scouts have just moved from Germany to Switzerland. I don't know what's going on.
I like, and to kind of go back, I like the signing of Praplin. I remember him in the rookie tournament, and he looked like he was having a little bit of LeBanc syndrome, where he was trying to do too much, and it was ultimately costing him, in my eyes, in the view of the coach as well as on the scoreboard. But he's year to year put up some solid numbers between, like you said, the OHL and then the Swiss National League as well. So I think the fact that the Sharks have taken, 6 months to get him signed after the rookie tournament makes me think that they were monitoring him and saw enough improvement to get him signed. So I'm excited to see, what he can bring to the Barracuda next year, providing he comes over.
He's got good, like, for NLA numbers. I mean, they're not very bad at all. Just this last season, 15 goals, 24 assists in 47 games. That's not bad for NLA numbers.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
And that's with EHC.
I was going to say that's with Cloten. And I mean, I have not, sadly, been following the National League this year, but Cloten's traditionally a bubble team for relegation. So
they are.
He's been playing with former Shark James Shepard as well.
That's right. He's on Cloten. Curtis Brown played for them too. That's a side comment though.
So I mean,
Praplin, I haven't seen enough of him to really gain an opinion yet, but free signing.
Yeah, I mean, you moved a couple of contracts, pick one up. I'd like, I'm not. I think it's if you have guys that decide to stay in college and you need to fill some holes in the Barracuda, I think Praplin is a guy who could fit right in there. God knows they need help.
They need more than help.
They need a lot right now. But it's good to see that at least if they can get him over, if this is not going to be another Noah Rhodes situation where it's like, well, I have a European clause, so I'm not coming unless I'm making the big club. I don't know if that's the clause, but I assume that's what it is for Noah Rhodes.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know what? Decent numbers on a team that generally, because that's what I noticed too, was that this is a team that generally faces relegation. So I mean, to put up that kind of points, it's an interesting prospect. I'm not super excited. I'm not saying go get your Praplin jerseys printed now. But it's an interesting prospect, and I look forward to seeing more of the kid and see what he brings. He's probably not even a kid at this point.
And he's probably like 22.
23, right.
But we've talked about the lack of depth on the Barracuda. He's 23, yeah. Lack of depth on the Barracuda this year. Signings like that will definitely help with that. Even if Praplin only becomes a third-line AHLer, Barracuda don't really have any third-line AHLers. So.
Oh, I feel bad. I want to... But jumping to the Barracuda also made a signing. They signed Evan winger of the Wenger. I don't know. He currently plays for the Brandon Wheat Kings, but he's played most of his junior career with the Portland Winterhawks. So obviously, this is a guy that they would have seen watching Joachim Blichfeld. Not a super exciting signing here. This is more of a warm body situation. 244 games, 63 goals, 76 assists. He has 50 points a season, but in junior, I mean, the expected production from junior to even the AHL, I mean, 50 points is not super exciting.
I'm thinking of Wenger in the same light as Colby McCauley last year. The problem was I was really, and I know Zach Devine was also really high on Colby McCauley after seeing him last year, and he earned himself a Barracuda contract. And he didn't look good in camp, and hasn't looked good for the Barracuda / Allen this year. So hopefully Wenger can be a step up, but it might just be the same kind of case where he's an AHL, ECHL shuttle guy.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I think it's a warm body. I mean, at least the Sharks aren't the only one that took notice of this guy, though, which kind of makes me feel better. The Kings also had him at their development camp, which, I think that's a good sign, though, if you've been at a few NHL camps. I feel like that's something that's nice. California native, also. So it's going to be.
That's right. He's from Southern California, huh?
Yeah, he's from El Segundo.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what he does. Again, I'm not super exciting, but I mean the Barracuda need bodies, and I'm always, I always love the story of the overage or undrafted that gets that opportunity to continue his playing career. So. I wish him all the best. I'm not excited, but I wish him all the best.
Definitely.
So our last thing here, as we near the end point of the show, we have a few questions because questions are awesome, like I said, and
That's right. Keep them coming, guys.
Super jacked to get some questions to help fill up the show. Sleepy Mofo asks, "Where's Gambrell playing next season?" I'll go first. He better be playing for the San Jose Sharks.
I don't know if I can beat that in fewer words. I talked about that quite a bit on Teal 10 After Dark on Saturday, that I think Dylan Gambrell, a lot of where he goes is dependent on what Troy Terry does, since they've been on the same line. They're both juniors this year. Mm-hmm. The rumors that I've heard is that Troy Terry may not be keen to signing with the Ducks at the end of his senior year, and the Ducks are afraid of doing that. So I imagine the Ducks are going to go all out in trying to sign Troy Terry immediately. If that's the case,
hero Troy Terry to you, sir.
What's up?
I said that is American hero Troy Terry to you.
American hero Troy Terry. That's right. Yeah, thank you for correcting me on that. That was well deserved. So if that's the case, I don't know what else Dylan Gambrell has to prove in college. I mean, I'm not going to tell the guy, don't get your education,
right?
Forget your senior year, any of that. But I mean, if hockey is his number one priority there, and if his top wing is gone, he doesn't really have anything else to prove statistically his senior year. He might as well go to the Sharks or the Barracuda. But I'm with you. I'd like to see him on the Sharks if he can hang. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Gambrell, and even Kurz wrote about Gambrell today as well. The thing I concerned is, by all accounts, and I mean I've never talked to the dude, but by all accounts he loves it at Denver. But this is a guy who I think, and I've been very consistent on this train. This is a guy that can. I don't think Gambrell's going to go to the Barracuda. I think Gambrell could fit in on the Sharks tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, now, does that happen? I don't know.
Normally, I'm a guy who says send the guys to the minors and let them develop and whatnot. I don't know where I feel about him going into next year, because I'll wait till the summer.
Chance.
Exactly. I don't think it would hurt. The Barracuda aren't going anywhere this year. I don't think he can learn anything from being on the Barracuda, but I think if the Sharks do go to the playoffs, I think he'll learn a lot as a black ace for the Sharks in the playoffs. So Seeing their tendency. Kyle Capobianco for the Coyotes. I know he didn't. The Coyotes, like I mentioned earlier, never go to the playoffs. But Kyle Capobianco was practicing with them at the end of the year, even though he wasn't playing with the Coyotes, and learning NHL tendencies and traits, so that when he went to the AHL this year, he's been one of the best defensemen in the league for the Roadrunners, and he was an all-star. So I think Gambrell can really learn it from seeing how the Sharks present themselves in the playoffs.
I mean, look at DU's gonna have probably, they're a threat for the Frozen Four again. So I mean, obviously that's going to be great for his development still to have that other, to have that more experience. But if the season is done, I think Doug Wilson really makes to make a hard run. You don't want to risk a guy going to his senior year, because we know what happens after senior year. We end up talking about it all summer. Right? Like, and no one wants this. Landy,
I just read AO's comment. Sorry. AO says, who needs a degree when you can make AHL money? Yeah. Yeah.
You finish your degree later. Come on.
That's what signing bonuses are for.
Right.
I like everything that you guys said. I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't watched him, but from what you guys and our college correspondent Vince G has told us, it sounds like he's done pretty well for himself at Denver. And you know what? My whole thing is, if there's a spot for him, then I think he'll make the jump. But if it's going to be a situation where he doesn't feel like there's a spot for him, I think he'll just stay, get his education, and go from there. And
the DeVore factor.
That too. And, like you guys said, it sounds like he could step onto the Sharks tomorrow and make an impact. But I don't know, like, if the opportunity came up where it was like, hey, we want you to be the first line center on the Barracuda, I don't think he would say no to that.
Oh, I don't think he would say no either. I just think that there's a spot for it. Like, I just think that he's a guy who could help the Sharks now.
Oh, sure.
And the Sharks don't have a ton of that in the system right now. They don't have guys that can help now. So you're plugging in guys like, Joel Ward and Melker Karlsson. Not that I dislike Melker Karlsson. I just think that, we kind of know what we have in Melker Karlsson. I still think, like, when you look at some of the guys that are going to fall off this roster next year, probably, there's room. Like, it's got to be earned, but there's room.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mike Nevis in the chat. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you think about it, the entire Sharks fourth line as it stands right now could all be gone next year.
Yeah.
You have Eric Fair, you have Joel Ward, and then you have, Hansen, Sorensen, and Barclay Goodrow all kind of rotating on that third spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it depends what the Sharks. I mean, there's so much that we could, there's so many what ifs and who's here and who's not. I don't want to climb too far down that rabbit hole.
John Tavares.
Right. I don't want to climb too far down that rabbit hole. But if you bring in, I think bringing in a guy like Gambrell, with all due respect to Chris Tierney, might also make sure that we never see this hurdle at center nonsense again.
Until we do. I like Mike Nevis. Mike Nevis said that he didn't say the Sharks, but I'm going to paraphrase it into the show. Sharks should sign Hillary Knight. Sure.
Absolutely.
Gold medal winner.
Gold medal winning Hillary Knight. Yep. I think Vegas already has the rights to her, though, because she's a Golden Knight.
Wow.
All right, that was terrible. Another question. Vince G asking, obviously, look at the power play. It's like 0-28 at this point. Is this failure to evolve? Like, what is your take on what has gone wrong with this power play?
Well, clearly it's not Joe Thornton's fault.
Right, not Joe Thornton's fault. In fact, it's pretty much coincided with Joe Thornton's absence.
I mean, at what point do you go from, regular slump to just being
terrible
crap? Yeah. I mean, you could do what they did earlier in the season and, change up the personnel. Maybe you swap out, a Dylan DeMello for a Tim Heed just to see if your power play can spark at all. Or I know Kevin and myself have joked about playing Tim Heed at forward You know,
yeah.
Hey guys, for Dylan DeMello, we could have got Taylor Hall.
All I'm saying is that nothing is impossible.
Oh man, yeah, I mean, my take, like, I don't know. At first, I kind of thought it was just like it was personnel issues because we had injuries, right? And now I don't even know anymore. I know in the chat earlier, people were saying that maybe Hurdle's still dinged up. I feel like I don't want to speculate on that, and I just feel like it's our kind of every time a player we like has a slump, it's always because they're banged up. And I always get nervous about just being like, yeah, they're just banged up. It's not, it's not their fault. They're just banged up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Hurdle's been terrible. I don't think Hurdle's been completely himself either. So, I mean, there might be something to say there. I don't think that helps. I mean, it's no shock that I think they took Hurdle off the top line and replaced him with Tierney. I don't know what else you're supposed to do. And this is one of the places where I don't think that Evander Kane's going to help that much. Because he's never really been a power play guy. He's great 5-on-5, but he's never really scored at a decent rate on the power play.
I know that the Sharks are, I'm not sure where they're at the moment in the power play, but I believe they are top 10 in the league. But
8th last I looked.
Okay. Even when the Sharks power play is so-called on, I still don't like it because they're a one-trick pony. They really are. Let Burns shoot it and hope Pavelski tips it.
Yep.
Like they have to do something else, and clogging the slot is not going to help their play. They need to. It's weird. I say that the Sharks always play perimeter, and it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like they also clog the middle way too much on themselves. So they need to find a way to rush the middle instead of clogging it and shooting from the perimeter, or I don't know how I want to phrase it, but it's just like it's one or the other, and they need to just let instinct take over sometimes. And
maybe it's a big responsibility, and maybe he's not ready for it yet, but maybe I think Kevin LeBanc should be tried as the main distributor.
Yeah, I mean, he, you know what? I mean, at this point with, 0-28, I'm not opposed to anything really. Right. And, as we've talked about on this show and we've seen, his playmaking ability has really shown this year. I mean, that was we all remember the stupid, point run that he was going on in the middle of the season. And why not? I mean, ultimately you want him to be a shooter, but at the same time you have to kind of use what's working. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
that's it. And Cam's saying, yeah, he's doing it on the second power play. Like, that's what I mean though. Like, put him on the first power play with the better talent and let him be the main distributor and see what happens. That's I think I would try that, because obviously the second power play unit, I think with Thornton gone, obviously the second power play unit, they both kind of play similar styles now. Whereas earlier in the season we complained because like the second power play unit would look more dangerous and the first power play unit looked predictable. I would like to see what would happen if Kevin LeBanc was the main distributor on that first power play unit with the biggest guns on the team.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. And you flash back to the first game of the season against the Philadelphia Flyers. I believe it was the big gun unit and LeBanc had 2 goals in that game. So there's your evidence. I mean, not necessarily a distributing role, but an effective role nonetheless.
Right.
All right. KM in the chat says they need to start actually doing cross-ice passes, and I sort of agree to that. The problem is the Sharks do try cross-ice passes. It's just that they telegraph it so bad, or they're so stationary when they do it that they make it telegraphed. They need to start doing it while moving, having all 5 guys moving around, because that's what's going to cause chaos for those defensemen. It's always the guys staying in their little zone, never straying away. You need to just have more fluid movement out of all 5 guys. And then those cross passes will open up because the defenseman, it's like, wait, this is my guy. No, that's your guy. And then they get all flustered and then goals start happening. So
yeah,
I agree with you and with Cam in the chat. I think being too stationary, that's been the Sharks' problem on the power play for as long as I can remember. And you see so many teams, like the Pittsburgh Penguins now and like the Chicago Blackhawks about 2 or 3 years ago, where, like you said, Kevin, all 5 guys are moving on the ice and the penalty killing team can do nothing except watch the puck go in.
Yeah, because everyone's a threat, where I feel like the Sharks power play, the problem is Burns is a threat. Pavelski's a threat. Everyone else, maybe Couture's a threat too, obviously, but everyone else is just there to kind of move the puck to one of those 3 guys. Yeah. Right? Like it's to get the puck to Burns, to either rifle at the net so Pavelski can tip it, or Couture can get a rebound and put it in.
Yeah, too much watching. Too much watching and waiting to see what happens when Burns shoots the puck.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. All right, last question, guys. We're going to save some jobs. We're going to save some people's careers because Rob wants to know who are some of the, I'm going to say, give me a couple of guys who you think are definitely not going to be where they are as far as being coaches or GMs next season.
Oh, I was wondering where you were going with jobs. Well, I'm glad you brought that up on this show because until this season, we were notorious for getting everyone fired.
I know.
Todd McClellan.
You think Todd McClellan gets fired, huh?
You know what? I know we all picked Edmonton to win the division this year.
I picked them to go to the finals.
But you know what? Beyond McDavid and Draisaitl and, the national anthem singer or whoever's on that line, like, it's, you don't have, there's not a lot going on. I mean, they traded Maroon, last summer they traded Jordan Eberle. I mean, Nugent Hopkins is finally having a breakout year 6 years later, but
he's trying to get out of there as hard as he can.
Yeah, there's just not a lot going on. Milan Lucic signing, which I personally has thought has been stupid since it happened, is not working out. And really, I mean, Oscar Klefbom is nice, but they don't have a number 1 defenseman. And you couple that with Cam Talbot being overworked. Not saying any of that is Todd McClellan's fault, but that's definitely a lot to fuel to the fire Todd McClellan formula, if you will. And
yeah.
Plus, Peter Chiarelli makes poor choices, so why not make another one?
Yeah, man. I feel like for me, I don't look at Buffalo. I don't look at Edmonton because I think they're really obvious choices. But at the same time, I feel like the people that have been there have been in place too little time to just completely throw the baby out with the bathwater. Buffalo just new coach there, new GM there. I don't think obviously Buffalo should be doing better than they are at this point, but I think it's too soon to make a move on there. Now, Terry Pegula runs the team, so they very well could, but I think it's too soon. I think it's probably too soon in Edmonton. I think, though, if I'm the Oilers and things go off the rails into next year, then, Todd McClellan's like one of the first casualties next season. But I think he starts the season behind the bench. And if they can't, and if they fall off the rails, like they have a crappy start, Todd McClellan's most certainly going to get fired. As far as being on the not starting, gosh, something's got to happen in Detroit.
Yeah.
At the start of the year, I think it was even in the offseason, I had mentioned that Jeff Blashill might be one of the guys that's on the hot seat. I still, to this day, don't really think that it's Blashill's fault. I really think highly of him as a coach, but something's got to give there. I mean, their special teams are horrid.
Ken Holland's got to go with Chris Ilitch running being the owner now that Mike Ilitch is gone. I don't know what the loyalty situation is in Detroit anymore. Obviously, look at Mike Ilitch loved Ken Holland. Loved Ken Holland.
Mm-hmm.
How long does Chris Ilitch keep Ken Holland around? I don't know. I think if there's going to be a move, that's my pick. I think Detroit gets a complete coaching GM house cleaning this summer.
See, I don't know, because Ken Holland, who, I think the Thomas Tatar trade, I think that was the smartest trade on the trade deadline. And so I'm wondering, does it, now that it appears like Detroit has finally accepted their fate, does that buy Ken Holland more time?
Should it? I don't think so.
Should it? No. But will it? It's very possible.
I'm not sold, man. That's a proud franchise. And look, they're not going to make the playoffs this year. They didn't make the playoffs. Like they got a brand new arena. They need to put some playoff butts in those seats. And, look at, Ken Holland was a great GM before the salary cap came in. And since the salary cap came in, yes, he has a Stanley Cup under his belt and there's a thing, but you're still looking at that team, and that team was still a holdover from pre-salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how, if you're Detroit, I don't know how you keep that going forward without kind of moving on already. I don't know. Kevin, go ahead.
For me, my hot seat coach, Drew Weber, will be upset, but it's Bill Peters in Carolina. I think Bill Peters has had enough time now to try and rebuild that team. That team has been heating up here lately, but we've seen them heat up several times over the season. Then next thing we know, they're in last place in the Eastern Conference. I think Bill Peters is an amazing penalty kill coach. I think if he were to be fired by Carolina, anyone, Edmonton, who's struggling with the PK this year, Peters should be the first guy called for defensive coaching. But time and time again now, especially with all the weapons Carolina has up front, and they still can't score enough goals, and their power play stinks. Their power play has stunk the whole time Peters has been there. He just doesn't seem like an offensive-minded coach, and especially with the direction the team is going, he might not be a fit anymore and might have worn out his welcome. So he's my guy to be fired first.
That's a good one. That's good, because I agree. I think there's a coaching change coming in Carolina as well. Especially, you just got new ownership. I don't think Ron Francis is going anywhere because he's Ron Francis, but a new coach could definitely happen in Carolina. I agree.
So as everybody can now see, we are trying to make up for our poor season of predicting coaches' termination.
What do you guys think? I got a question for you before you go. What about John Chaika in Arizona? Now, I love John Chaika. I think John Chaika has done a lot of things that just haven't translated to on-ice success. Is John Chaika's seat getting hot? Especially being a not traditional hockey guy.
The Coyotes just have so many good pieces on that team. I thought they were gonna fight for the playoffs. You bring in guys like Stepan and Hjalmarsson and Antti Ranta. You have to think that they're going to be higher in the conversation. And I don't know. We remember all the drama with Dave Tippett and all the drama with Shane Doan, but is that drama still going on? Because that would kind of explain why all of these good players are suffering. But at the same time, I almost have to wonder if you have to give this group, the Stepan, Hjalmarsson, Ranta, Clayton Keller group, I think you have to give them another try, when everybody's healthy. And Ekman Larsson has had a piss poor year this year as well.
I still think he's the most overrated player in all of the NHL. I really do.
See, here's the thing, because I like what Chaika's done, and I think that it would be a shame for him to get fired, because I feel like, look at, in order to win in the NHL, things have to go right. What has gone right for the Coyotes this year? They started without Chekrin. Ranta's been, had a hellacious season health-wise. Hjalmarsson got hurt. What's gone right for the Coyotes this year, too, at the same time?
I mean, Clayton Keller had a good start, but that's about it.
Sorry, well, I was going off on another Arvidsson tangent in the chat. What'd you say about Chalmerson?
Oh, just that Hjalmarsson's had some injury trouble. Ranta's had some injury trouble. I mean, but it's crazy though, because like this is a team that during the trade deadline, like there was mutterings around, a Max Domi trade, which I think is just insanity.
Well, Max Domi did get beat up by Drake Caggiula last night, which was pretty funny. But I am surprised the Coyotes didn't make more moves, because I know Hjalmarsson was linked to the Ducks. I think a couple of the different Coyotes were linked to the Ducks, and nothing really happened there. You mentioned Chaika maybe being on the hot seat. I think that, for starters, I never know who the owner is with that team. So it's one of those things, like, I don't know who the owner is and what their mindset is in that. But I think Chaika, the fact that he is so young, I do think buys him some time.
Does it or does it hurt him? Because he's an analytics guy, and obviously you're kind of seeing, you always have this analytics versus old school hockey guy fight.
No, but I wonder. I think because he's so young, that's why they'd be more willing to give him a chance as an analytics guy, because it's like, all right, well, you got time on your side, kid, kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. There's still moves that Chaika has done that make no sense to me, such as getting rid of Shane Doan and having absolutely no veteran leadership on the team this season. Or I was saying, how can Jaromir Jagr not find a job in the team when Arizona is that bad and has no veteran presence? Like, why wouldn't you want your kids to learn off of a guy like Jagr? Like,
does Jagr? I feel like even though he didn't have like anything in his contract, like, does he report to Arizona?
What's up?
I said, does Jagr report to Arizona? Like, I know he didn't have any no trade, but I mean, he's still Jagr, right? Like,
I don't think he would have
to a guy.
I don't think he would have wanted to be in Arizona, but I think he would have taken the job over no job. No, because Yager's always been an East Coast guy. His tenure in Dallas proved that. But
and Calgary wasn't a fit for him at all.
No, I don't think Arizona would have been either. But I mean, I just don't see what the deterrent is outside of age to at least let some of that veteran, being around for 50
Jagr
years.
Had a bad year, but at the same time, like, I'm just like, not that I ever buy into this, you're ruining your legacy or you're tarnishing your legacy, but man, I just didn't want to watch the clock strike 12 on, I don't want to watch the clock strike midnight on Jagr. I'm almost kind of happy he went the way he did.
Yeah. I really wanted to see him, get the games played there. And the other stat I just found out about yesterday was Jagr was one on ice goal away from being on the ice for 2,500 goals for his team.
Wow.
So he finished at being on the ice for goals for 2,499. I thought that would have been cool to get him for one more.
All right. Well, we've probably talked for long enough, so we should probably get out of here.
We got a really wide. This might be the rangiest show we've ever had, though. It was awesome.
Other than a summer show, I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
Summer shows we can spin a yarn on 100 different topics, but yeah, I think for a regular season show, it's probably good range on this one. Good range.
Yeah.
So obviously, keep your questions coming because we love your questions, and I mean, your questions just probably extended the show by 20 minutes. So if you're one of the people that like the show that makes you have to take an extra walk around the block, this is the podcast for you. Kevin Lacey, final thoughts.
Vladimir Sobotka is X number of days from becoming a free agent from the I don't know. I haven't busted that out all season, so I figured I might as well. You can follow me on Twitter at KevinLacey22, pissing off Canucks fans about who knows what. And you will see me now that my health is getting back up there because I was really sick over the weekend. You will see me at both Friday and Saturday night's Barracuda games against the Cleveland Monsters, the very first time Cleveland comes into town for AHL hockey anyway. So yeah, that should be a lot of fun. And I know it's blackout jersey night at the tank as well Saturday. First 4,000 fans get a black Barracuda jersey. I don't know if it's like a real black jersey or one of the knockoff jerseys. All I know is just don't make me not get one. I want one, folks.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to send one my way, send them my way.
There you go.
If anyone comes across an extra one that they want to send north of the border, let me know. Hockey Jerk, final thoughts.
So, final thoughts. We all have made our picks for who's going to get fired next, but I'm curious about Alain Vigneault. Does he get to be the captain of the ship as it's being righted, or does he get thrown overboard? You can DM or tweet me that on Twitter at hockey_jerk, where I will try my best to conversate with you all. And if you enjoy fantasy hockey or Hockey Ultimate Team on the PlayStation 4 or anything else about hockey, that's your spot to go. I'm sorry to tell you guys, I am not a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, but there is a 48% chance that I will be at the Blackout Jersey game whenever it is. So, Ian, keep your mailbox aware of anything coming at it. And I don't have anything else to say.
Fantastic. On that note, yeah, if there's a team that you think that we are dummies and we missed, don't tell us Montreal, though, because Montreal's not changing ever.
Montreal will never change.
Montreal will never change. So aside from Montreal, if there's a team that you think that we missed that were coaches on the hot seat, let us know on Twitter for sure. If you have any questions for the show, you can always DM them to me. You can tweet them at us. I usually make the notes for the show, so if you DM them to me, it's really easy to go and check that out when I'm making the notes for the show. So that's the best way to do it. Other than that, guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Please subscribe. Tell 2 friends. They'll tell 2 friends. They'll tell 2 friends. And I will get off this show.
At Teal Tinted Pod.
Yes, at Teal Tinted Pod. At Ian Blogs Hockey. At everything. At yourself.